Hey again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Wheel of Albums. Along with our brother Adam and our friend Jack. I'm Justin. On the camera today, our graphic artist, Sydney. What we do here on Wheel of Albums is we spin a wheel of the 1001 albums you must hear before you die. Then we get back to you for the week and let you know if it's an album we think you should listen to before you die. This week, Adam spun the wheel, brother Adam, and he spun Jimmy Smith's Back at the Chicken Shack.
Back at the Chicken Shack by the incredible Jimmy Smith. Initial reaction to hear that the performer was going to be the incredible Jimmy Smith instead of that kind of okay Jimmy Smith got me a little bit excited. Was guessing it was going to be some jazzy, funky thing. We shall see.
I had a lot of feelings about this. I mean, first of all, what the heck is going on with the album cover on this album? I was like, this is intriguing. I want to know what I am about to listen to, only to find out that it's another jazz album. And it's the third jazz album we've had in the last 10 listens on the Wheel of Albums. Kind of looking forward to hearing what Jimmy Smith had to offer, and he offers something a bit different. Let's get into it.
I thought I'd get a hold of my old coworker and good friend Adam Howard. He is a jazz machine, owns lots of albums, and I thought I'd ask him more about Jimmy Smith. And he says, hey man, I don't know Jimmy's work extensively. I do know he's the king of the Hammond B3. That guy can bring so much soul out of the organ. I don't own this particular album though. Adam does say he did one with Wes Montgomery, which is fantastic. And also went on to say Jimmy is one of the pioneers of soul jazz. So getting a fresh perspective from the other Adam. So it helped me on my next couple listens to start appreciating Jimmy's laid back groove and what he was doing here.
So compared to John Coltrane, which was doing his own thing with The Love Supreme, and Charles Mingus' tightrope tension act, Jimmy Smith is way more subdued of a listen than that. And maybe it's not the optimal chicken shack music that you think of. In my head, when I think of a chicken shack or a chicken coop, I think the Benny Hill theme.
I like that it just stays in this groove. This record is your life. You just ease on and slowly meld into one with your beanbag as the organ and the saxophone take control.
It is definitely laid back, but his organ does shine through, especially on the title track. With a title like Back at the Chicken Shack, expect this to be a little bit more ramshackle.
I personally would think that a chicken shack would be crazy. Chickens running around, that's what they always tell you. Chicken running around with his head cut off. Maybe a chicken with his head on is just sitting back, smoking some Bel Airs and chillaxing.
It is 1963. Maybe this was considered ramshackle back in the day.
Maybe all the chaos you have while you're trying to round up the chickens and get them back into the coop. Maybe you need to listen to some Jimmy. Maybe it's good music to listen to after maybe you've used the chickens to make some, I don't know, deep fried chicken? Sorry, chickens. But anyway, I read somewhere that they describe Jimmy Smith's music as greasy soul jazz, which it's finger looking good. So maybe the album cover and the idea of Back at the Chicken Shack, maybe this album plays perfectly into it.
You can interpret it different ways. If you've never been to a chicken shack before, is it good? All right, I get to go back to the Chicken Shack. I had a heck of a good time there last time. Is the Chicken Shack a restaurant, or are you going and gathering eggs?
Then we've got the adjective that Jimmy puts on his name here on the front cover of the album here. He is the incredible Jimmy Smith. And incredible he was. He released 33 albums in the 60s on 2 different labels. That's pretty incredible indeed. Incredible gets overused a lot, though. Can you guys think of a better adjective for marketing that might have helped Jimmy out even more?
If I'm using an adjective for him and the album cover and what's going on there, I'm saying the deceptive Jimmy Smith. A smooth Hammond B3 organ player is not what I was expecting. Deceptive Jimmy Smith.
The incredible Jimmy Smith. The prestigious Jimmy Smith. Principal Jimmy Smith. Primal Jimmy Smith. Distinguished Jimmy Smith. Eminent Jimmy Smith. The notable Jimmy Smith. The noble Jimmy Smith. We might have a winner there with noble. The noble Jimmy Smith. And Stanley Turrentine on sax.
And he does a nice job being complimentary to Jimmy on sax on this thing, too. Pretty simple. Sax, organ, some guitar work, and some drums in there. And it could be, that's why it took me a little bit of time to get used to Back at the Chicken Shack. Because after hearing Coltrane and Mingus's albums, they were much more dynamic than this. But what I started reminding myself of with the Hammond B3 organ is, what does this remind me of in my lifetime? The first thing I think of is Check Your Head by the Beastie Boys. The work from Mario C. on those mid-90s albums, his organ work really reminds me a lot of what Jimmy Smith does. And lo and behold, when looking up, the song Root Down off of Ill Communication takes a sample from Jimmy Smith, Root Down and Get It, from a 1972 album. Also, if you want to go back to season 1, it's also part of The Prodigy's Funky Shit. I'll leave a link if you want to hear what we thought of that album, The Fat of the Land. Who do you guys think of when you think of that Hammond organ whenever Jimmy's gets pumping on that thing?
I'm not sure who the incredible Jimmy Smith makes me think of. Anytime the organ, I always Deep Purple, John Lord of Deep Purple, just that haunting organ. So I'm more familiar with the rock organ than I am with this soul jazz organ, but always I like it. It makes me think of the old Spider-Man cartoons. So whoever played the organ in the background of all those Spider-Man cartoons, he was good too. Or she. I don't know who was playing it. But Jimmy Smith is incredible on that Hammond organ. He does make it howl.
I will say that the beginning of Back at the Chicken Shack kind of reminds me of Henry Mancini a little bit, or the beginning of the Pink Panther, other trailblazing. I kind of wonder how much influence he may have had on some other rock pioneers that played the Hammond B3. Ray Manzarek of The Doors, Rick Wakeman of Yes. If you want strange psychedelic Hammond B3 rock music, you go there. I think if you want subdued background music, I kind of like Jimmy Smith. I think maybe you check out his gigantic discography of all the music he laid down in the 60s. And then, I go personally, my go-to organ dude is the Lord of keyboardists, and that is John Lord.
There's just some great organ players. Even if you go into the 90s, I'd throw in Rob Collins of the Charlatans. That guy would bang that Hammond. Listen to songs like Weirdo from Between the 10th and 11th. Can't Get Out of Bed. Rob Collins played the keyboard like he was back at the Chicken Shack. He was a Hammond virtuoso, and unfortunately passed away from this world way too soon.
Initially, on first listen, I hear that organ. It took me back to the Steubenville Mall. There was some organ shop. They actually used to have enough sales of organs that people would have its own store in the mall. But then I thought, as I was listening deeper, I go, oh, that other guy, that old guy in the leisure suit, he must be sick because they got some cool guy playing it today. And that's what that Hammond organ at the title track, Back at the Chicken Shack, does for it.
You gotta miss a world where you can just run down to the mall and purchase yourself an organ. I do remember those days too, Jack. Hey, when we take a look at the numbers for Back at the Chicken Shack, Jimmy Smith, 4 songs on here. Mid but fair numbers. Adam with a 5.25. Jack gave it a 5. I gave it a 6 for a final rating of 5.416. And then our top 3 songs, Back at the Chicken Shack, Minor Chant, and Messy Bessie. Adam, what came to mind again whenever you thought of Messy Bessie?
The last song, called Messy Bessie, is a song about Bessie the chicken and its untimely end. But Messy Bessie, man, she went down good eating. Put some mayo, pickles on top, get a little chicken sandwich, greasy soul jazz. Go Jimmy Smith.
Must you go back to the Chicken Shack before you die and treat your ears to the incredible, sometimes known as the noble Jimmy Smith? I would say that listening to this, it's not a groundbreaking album. It doesn't change your life. It doesn't change your outlook on the world, but it does change your mood. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel relaxed, and there's a lot to be said for that. I'm going to go with yes. You still should hear this before you die. It's got a nice vibe to it. It lets you become more self-aware. Maybe you're a late 1960s cop and you're going into the hotel bar because your snitch is working there, and this is what's playing in the background. Barnaby Jones probably got down to this stuff all the time. Cannon loosen his belt, shake that stuff on the floor of the Ramada Inn when he'd hear the incredible Jimmy Smith was in town for a 3-nighter. You should listen to Back at the Chicken Shack before you die.
This could be the most torn I have been on picking, do you need to hear this album before you die or not? And I just honestly don't know. Jimmy did over 100 solo albums, so is there another one on the list that's better? I don't know. So I'm going to say you got to check Jimmy Smith out before you die, one of his albums. If it's Back at the Chicken Shack, I don't know. I'm going to say yes. We're going to give it a yes, just because I love the Hammond B3 organ, and I like what Jimmy put down here.
Now, here's where I'm going to go ahead and call out the author of the book, 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die, Robert Dimery. We still don't really know how to say your name. And the three of us are too lazy to look it up. A man who released so many albums. The incredible Jimmy Smith. Is he somebody we need to know about? Yes, and I'm glad that we learned about him. Back at the Chicken Shack. I'd like to think there's a better album out there. I'm going to say no. I don't think Back at the Chicken Shack is dynamic enough to be included in the 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. Jimmy Smith and his crew do a fine job on this album, At the Chicken Shack. I just don't think it's one of the albums you must hear before you die. Dimer, you just put it in here because it's got a cool title and a cool album cover, I think. We're on to you, buddy. Jack, go ahead and spin that wheel for the next album.
Now that we've exited the Chicken Shack, it's time to give the wheel a spin. Let's see what comes up. Well, some more brotherly love. The Everly Brothers. A date with the Everly Brothers.
To follow along with new episodes each Monday, subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify.
And if you do get back to the Chicken Shack before you die and you listen to this, say hi to Messy Bessie, which doesn't it? That just sounds like the Messy Bessie sounds like the perfect signature chicken sandwich, right? I'm just free flowing here, jazz style, jazz hands. Bye bye.